Great. Then again, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm your facilitator for today. My name is Rachel Forster, and I'm a policy officer at Search for Common Ground, whom, if you don't know us, we are a peace-building organization currently operating in about 30 countries worldwide, where we work with diverse stakeholders, including religious actors. So not just formal religious leadership, but a broader category that includes men, women, younger and older people who hold influence in their communities through the strength of their religious convictions. And we work to find win-win solutions to build healthy, safe, and just societies around the world. Although we're not faith-based, we identify as faith literate because we see the crucial importance of engaging religious actors as part of the solution to violent conflict. Like many others, some of whom you'll be hearing from today, we believe that although religion is often seen as a source or a cause of war and conflict, it has huge potential in building and sustaining peace. In 2012, 84% of the world's population identified with a religious community. And that's a number that we see as growing rather than declining in the years to come. So if we want to build safer and more peaceful societies, we cannot afford to ignore the role that religion plays in people's lives and conflicts, both as a driver of violence and as a path to peace. Instead, we need to be engaging with religious actors at all levels to maximize our collective efforts towards peace and social cohesion. And we see in the conflict and fragile settings that we work in that freedom of religion or belief violations, also known as the acronym FoRB, are rife. They act as both drivers and consequences of violence. And we know that because when people feel that their deeply held identities, including religious identities, are under attack, they become more likely to withdraw into their communities, to demonize the perceived enemy, and to then find justifications for violence against each other. And it's particularly in the case where areas where state authorities have limited control or where human rights as a whole are rejected as Western impositions rather than being locally owned and rooted, where peace-building approaches to freedom of religion or belief become all the more relevant. So with that in mind, today we'll be hearing from 3 practitioners on how their work has incorporated both freedom of religion or belief and peace-building, what impact they've seen as a result, and what best practices and lessons learned they can share with us on how to include FoRB and peace-building in our initiatives. We'll start with a plenary discussion and a short Q&A before moving into breakout rooms for a more in-depth discussion with the individual speakers, and then we'll return to the plenary for concluding remarks. We'll be using Slido to make things a little bit more interactive. So my colleague is going to share the Slido link in the chat, and I'm going to invite you all to click on it, please. So Daniel, if you could please share the link for us. Lovely. So please go to slido.com and we should have a code to enter as participants. There we go. And we enter the code that Daniel has just put in the chat, which is 1916957. So I'll give you a minute to join. And welcome. I will ask everybody to mute themselves when they're not talking so we don't get an echo, please. Thank you. All right, you should all be joining, and you should see now that we have one question up already as a practice to get everybody used to using the tool. I'm also going to share my screen so that you can follow along in case you're having any issues. So
can you help me with the link?
Thank you, Frederick. The link is in the chat. It's slido.com, and then you enter the code. All right. So I can see people are joining. So there are 2 functions in Slido that we'll be using today. One of them is the poll section, and one of them is the Q&A. So we'll start with the Q&A, which, Daniel, please could you bring that one up onto the Slido so it's in live mode, just so we can show people. All right, let me refresh the page. All right, while Daniel is getting that set up, I will introduce the other function, which is the poll. It's very simple. So the question right now is, which sector are you from? So I work for a peacebuilding NGO. So I'm submitting my answer. And once you submitted your answer, you'll be able to see where everybody else is coming from. So we have quite a lot of peace builders. Unsurprisingly, this is PeaceCon. This is really the target audience, but we also have people working in mediation specifically, some people from education, some people actually from the private sector and the public sector, people coming in from Eastern Europe as well. So in addition from having speakers from Kenya, from Indonesia and from Singapore, we also have people based in Western Europe and Eastern Europe. We have some colleagues from the US joining us today, even though it's extremely early for them. So I'm looking forward to this being a very global interaction. We'll give it another few minutes, another few seconds, sorry, for people to add any contributions. But I think most people have already added their responses. All right. And what you can now see on my screen at the same time is that there is another tab called Q&A, where during the presentations by the speakers, we would like to invite you to type the questions that you have for them into this Slido. So we have given some examples just so that you can see how it works. So once you type your question, so you could ask, how can I promote FoRB in my country? Send it, and then it'll show up. But what you'll also be able to do is vote for other people's questions. If you see somebody has asked a really good question that you'd like to see answered, you can click the thumbs up icon like you would on social media, and the questions with the most votes will rise to the top. So we'll know that these ones are the ones that want to be answered as a priority. All right. I will go back quickly to the polls just to see if there's been any last minute additions, but I think, no, we're all very much from the same sector. All right, then I'll stop sharing my screen and get us started properly by introducing our first speaker, who is going to be Dr. James Gomez. So with over 25 years of experience, Dr. Gomez is the Regional Director of Asia Center, which is a civil society research institute, where he oversees their work and partnerships on religious freedom issues across Asia. The center is also the Secretariat for the Southeast Asia FoRB Network, or CFoRB, and is a partner of other FoRB networks such as the ICID and SAFoRB. So over to you, James, now. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks very much. My name is James. I'm speaking to you from Bangkok, where our regional office is. A very brief introduction for Asia Center. Asia Center, primarily, undertakes evidence-based research on FoRB issues, country-specific as well as thematic specific and across the region of Southeast Asia. We also undertake training, especially on advocacy for FoRB. And then finally, time to time, we are called upon to provide strategic briefings. We have done so for the special rapporteurs and also diplomatic missions in the region. I'm basing my comments on brief comments on two reports that we have done, which I thought might be helpful in getting a sense of the pulse on FoRB in Southeast Asia. Most of the work today that we know around peace building, and there's a wide range of organizations, both from the region and from outside the region, that do good work around peace building. The approach has always been on a dialogue basis, where there's a strong emphasis on tolerance and harmony. That has been the historical approach and continues to inform a lot of the work in the region. But however, there has been in the background a move towards, or a desire for a more rights-based approach. Many times, this dialogue approach is also seen as very, very status and doesn't, really give voice to minority, religious, and ethnic groups. And sometimes, these groups want ownership over their own voices. So there has been, a slight movement towards a rights-based approach. And this is what led to the formation of several networks in the region. The CFORB, the Southeast Asia Freedom of Religion and Belief Network, as well as the South Asia Freedom of Religion and Belief Network. In order to ensure that we have the correct temperature and feeling from the region, the Asia Center, on behalf of the CFORB network, undertook a needs assessment. And what we found out was there was an overwhelming desire now, in addition to the long tradition of dialogue-based approach to peace building, to also gently look into a rights-based approach. With the rights-based approach, there was also desire that groups, both national and regional, should also strengthen their ability to undertake advocacy work, including accessing the UN mechanism, engaging with either the Special Rapporteur, UPR, and other mechanisms under the Human Rights Council. But I think the key takeaway with a rights-based approach is the associated risks. So I'll just dive very quickly some of the countries that flag risks in taking a right-based approach. One of them is Vietnam, where the Ministry of Public Security plays a very large role, especially around the hill tribes. Time to time, some of these groups are labeled as terrorist organization, and most recently, the Montegads Christians, their groups was labeled as a terrorist organization, just to give you a sense. Similarly, also with Myanmar, I'll speak a little bit, more in a couple of minutes about Myanmar. But again, with the military junta and a lot of displacement over the border spilling into northern Thailand, risk associated with advocacy, rights-based approach to FoRB in Myanmar is also a challenge. And last but not least, our needs assessment also showed a challenge in the Philippines around rate tagging. FoRB advocates have been rate tagged. Another key concern in terms of taking a more rights-based approach towards peace building has also been the role of foreign actors. While foreign actors, have been very supportive and, plugging the local and regional groups to the international scene, the risk comes from how those associations are politically manipulated to give reputation damage, both through the good work of local and regional groups and also international groups. So one has to be a bit guarded. So hence, one of the risk mitigation, approaches was to perhaps, more local groups to take the forefront and lead. So in a nutshell, we do see a desire there to supplement the dialogue-based approach to peace building with a very cautious and limited way on how rights-based approach can also weave in. The key concern has been around risk and approaches to risk mitigation. I'll end by just, saying a few things about Myanmar, as I mentioned earlier. We will be, sending you. So first, I will send you the link to the needs assessment, which you can access. Which is right there, and then also the next report on Burma. The key element to take note here about Burma is really the post-coup. So that means since in the last 3 years, although religious rights were already challenged in Myanmar, the deterioration has accelerated. So that's what's the finding of our reports, which I've just uploaded here, in terms of there's been a severe deterioration of rights in Myanmar. There are a few key things that you can sort of look out for. For example, there is a ban in the use of ethnic languages, also associated to rights and freedoms, because of the intersectionality between religion and ethnicity. there have been other elements to kind of, because most of the, push against the military junta also come from the ethnic religious minorities. So there have been other supplementary laws, such as the gun law. There is an overdose of propaganda on state-run media, although a lot of it has been ignored. And last but not least, there's a strong element of Buddhist support also for the freedom movement. So the military has come in to divide the Buddhists by saying, if you support the junta, then you're a good Buddhist. If you don't support the junta, then you're a bad Buddhist. So these are kind of top-line observations. The report, of course, gives you more. I'll end by saying some of the disturbing things that we've been seeing over the last year, and it continues, is the specific targeting of FoRB advocates and religious communities in a post-school environment, the destruction of religious sites across, especially in the ethnic areas. There's also been religious-based arbitrary detentions and killings, and hence a lot of flight across the border to Thailand. And finally, of course, once again to mention the severe persecution of the Rohingyas. So dear colleagues, I'll just pause here as a preliminary intervention, and I can share more, and I'll pass the time back to our moderator, Rachel. Time is yours.
Thank you so much, James, for this very interesting opening remarks. And yeah, for people who join your breakout later, I think the Myanmar case study will be very interesting to hear about in more detail. But you've already outlined quite a bit about the risks of dialogue, maintaining the status quo if we're not careful about it, and the value of a routes-based approach in response. Also of taking regional approach, looking at patterns while still really making sure we're localized and understanding the specificities of the context, and how a peace-building approach and a rights-based approach can really complement each other in very difficult spaces such as Myanmar, but also other contexts in the region. So thank you very much. I'm now going to hand over to Henning Parlan, who is the coordinator of Green Faith Indonesia, which is part of Green Faith International, which this year has trained almost 300 young people from various religions and beliefs for climate justice. She's also the vice chair of the Environmental Assembly of the Muhammadiyah Central Leadership, where she coordinates Ecobhinneka, a peace-building initiative which has an environmental interfaith approach. Over to you, Henning.
Thank you very much, Rachel. So may I present my screen? Yes, wait me. I will present my screen now. So, okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Henning. I will presentation about the bridging faith and peace, about the integrating freedom of religion and belief into effective conflict prevention and peace building strategies with insight from the Green Faith Indonesia and also Ecobhinneka Muhammadiyah. I will start with the role of the faith in peace building. So the role of the faith in the peace building is, we will start with the integrating faith into peace building is a crucial as a religious principle, often promote values like compassion, justice, reconciliation, which are foundation of lasting peace. So freedom of religion foster mutual respect and understanding among diverse communities, which helps to prevent conflict root in the religious intolerance and also the discrimination. Green Faith Indonesia and Ecobhinneka Muhammadiyah are organizing dedicated to promoting environmental stewardship and religious diversity and key component of sustainable peace building effort in Indonesia. Green Faith Indonesia is faith-based organization dedicated to climate justice, integrating religious values into climate action, through education, advocacy, grassroots project, and also mobilize diverse faith community to protect the environment, promote the justice, and also build the sustainable future. But the Ecobhinneka Muhammadiyah is an initiative under Muhammadiyah focused on fostering religious diversity and environmental stewardship It emphasizes the importance of pluralism and tolerance in promoting peace while also advocating for sustainable development and environment care through interfaith youth collaboration. Greenfit Indonesia approach is faith-based environment advocacy, education, and also campaign. Greenfit mission is to inspire and environment faith communities to take action on environmental justice, promoting sustainable through education advocacy and collaborative project. Environmental stewardship foster peace by addressing resources related with the conflict, promoting shared responsibility for the earth, and building bridges between diversity communities toward common environmental goals. Fight for Climate Justice, one of the initiatives by Greenfit Indonesia that mobilize diverse faith communities to advocate for the climate justice, recognizing the moral and ethic responsibility to protect the planet. The campaign involved interfaith collaboration. Through the effort, Greenfit also emphasizes the role of faith in the addressing the climate crisis, advocating for the policies that promote environmental justice and ensuring that vulnerability population are protected from the impact of the climate change. And the Ekobedika Muhammadiyah contribution is promoting diversity and peace. So the Ekobedika Muhammadiyah is committed to fostering religious diversity and environmental sustainability, aiming to build harmonious communities that respect differences while working together for the sustainable future in the community. Ekobedika Muhammadiyah promotes religious diversity and tolerance through interfaith dialogue, education, and collaboration communities project emphasizing mutual respect and also shared values. Ekobedika Muhammadiyah have 4 locations in Indonesia, that is in Solo, Pontianak, Ternate, and Banyuwangi. So Ekobedika youth also have many activities like youth camp, in West Kalimantan, multi-faith action, beach cleaning action, smart campaign to manage plastic waste, interfaith youth and women, interfaith student visit for clean the river, and interfaith student exchange, and also another activities. So how the integrating religion into conflict prevention strategies for integrating religion into peace building. And our lesson then from 2 organizations that number 1, incorporating religious principles into conflict prevention involve using teaching on peace, justice, and also compassion to guidance mediation, promoted reconciliation, and also build mutual respect among conflicting parties. Number 2, interfaith dialogue and cooperation are crucial for breaking down various misunderstanding, fostering mutual respect, and also creating and feel from against conflict rooted in religious and cultural differences. The key lesson from the Greenfit Indonesia and Ekobedika Muhammadiyah include the power of combining faith-based initiative with environment and social action to build peace and the effectiveness of the grassroots interfaith collaboration in conflict prevention. The real-world application success story is we have Ekobedika and also Greenfit have implement project like interfaith environment campaign and also community resilience program, which integrated religion teaching which are practical environment action to foster a peace. And this project have led to strengthen community bonds, improve the environment condition, and increase awareness of the intersection between faith and also sustainable development. Participants, stakeholders have praised this initiative for bridging diversity groups together, fostering mutual understanding, and creating tangible benefit for the environment and community relation. And also, at the last, our presentation is conclusion and next step for moving forward the future of faith-based peace building. The presentation is highlight of the integration of faith into the peace building, the impact of the Green Faith Indonesia and Ekumenika Muhammadiyah initiative, and importance of the religious diversity in fostering sustainable peace. Moving forward, Greenpeace and also Ekumenika continue expanding their effort to integrated faith-based approach into broader environment and peace building strategies, aiming to reach more community action. And we encourage wider adoption of faith integrated strategies in peace building. We urge communities, religious leaders, and also policymakers to embrace and implement faith integrating strategies and peace building to create a lasting solution to conflict and environment challenges. So thank you so much, and I will back to the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Henning, for that presentation, and great also to see so many photos of the activities that you've carried out to really help us visualize what that looks like. And I think you highlighted some great points around, firstly, the religious values that underpin peace building for many people involved in the peace building sector, and that although they're not always explicit, they are often very present and they can be a shared starting point for us to work together. And similarly, that shared priorities around the climate, around the environment, can really be a way to bring different religious actors together and create that space, as you were saying, to strengthen community bonds, to create understanding, to combat the prejudices and the stereotypes that can often lead to violations of freedom of religion or belief. And I think particularly also what you were sharing about working with young people as well, who are not always the most obvious to be included in religious peace building or peace building and FoRB, but really the added value that they can bring as well by engaging them as peacemakers rather than as troublemakers. So thank you very much. With that, I'm going to turn to our last speaker, and that is Ali Aden, who is my colleague at Search for Common Ground Kenya, where he heads up one of our field offices. His work includes holding interreligious dialogue sessions to build collaboration in divided communities, as well as community mediation between refugees at the Dadaab refugee camp and the host community, but also between African traditional religion practitioners and government authorities. So Ali, please, whenever you're ready. But you are not unmuted. Unmute Ali for some reason. Maybe one of the other hosts will have more luck than me. All right, Ali, you should have the option to unmute yourself.
Okay, I have unmuted.
There we go. Lovely. Please go ahead.
Okay, sorry for the hitch. My name is Ali Aden Ali. I'm a senior program officer with Search for Common Ground. I'm based in Garissa County of Kenya. Kenya is in the East African is an East African country. Garissa is on the border with Somalia. It hosts refugees. So the office that I had is called Boni office. It covers Lamu, that's also borders Somalia, and also Tana River. But this work that I am involved of freedom of religion and belief, that's sponsored by, that's known as the GISRA, Joint Initiative for Strategic Religious Action, that's sponsored by the Dutch Foreign Ministry. It covers up to other four, up to other 4 counties, 3 counties, that is Kwale, Kilifi, Mombasa, Lamu and Garissa. If I introduce Search for Common Ground actually started working in Kenya in 2007-2008 after post-election violence. We had permanent presence in Mombasa, that's the coastal Kenya area of Tana River, Kwale, Lamu, Kilifi, Garissa. The area has experienced some violent extremist activities because of its bordering with Somalia, where we have the Al-Shabaab militia that's currently active. Let me come to this project that's actually taken us, that brought us for this space, the JISRA, Joint Initiative for Strategic Religious Action. Actually, it concerns it's an interreligious project on freedom of religion and belief. Specifically, in Kenya, we are working in the counties of Kwale, Lamu, Garissa, Kilifi, Mombasa. And one of the main work that we have done is that we have worked with the Kaya elders. The Kaya elders, they practice African traditional religion. Kenya has a new constitution of 2010. The constitution enshrines freedom of religion and belief in the country, the freedom to practice and worship freely. Article 32 of the Kenyan Constitution talks about freedom of conscience, religion, belief, and opinion. Every person has the right to freedom of conscience, religion, thought, belief, and opinion. Christianity and Islam are the main religions here, but Kenya, as a country, there is no official state religion in the country. So African traditional religion is being practiced. So the counties that we worked of Kwale and Kilifi, they practiced the elders, called the Kaya elders. They hold the forest, the Kaya forest, very dear to them. It's very dear to them. Actually, that's the place they have their shrines. Also, they take some other, they go to a forest, pray. It's an age-old practice, African traditional religion. So the ecosystem, religion, livelihood, government actors have to coexist. So here, Search for Common Ground came in with this project after we have done so many dialogues, because the community, the Kaya elders, sometimes were barred from accessing the shrines by the Kenya Forest Services and the Kenya museums because they were conserving the forest. But due to our intervention, Search for Common Ground, we have practiced a common ground approach on religious religion. Actually, this is a methodology that we come to to take through parties that are not in good terms or in talking terms. After those sessions, they have agreed and they have talked. The government and the Kaya elders are in talking terms. The forest services now are allowing the community, the Kaya elders, into their forest, into their shrines, to pray to their God. Communities can go and get firewood, do some livelihood activities around the forest due to our interventions in the Kaya Diani, Kaya Murima, or the Kaya Inkaloleni. We have forests here, which are very dear. There are almost 40 forests in these communities, of the two communities of Kwale and Kilifi. At the same time, near the forest, also, there are incidents that were not very good. We had the Shakohola incident, a massacre, whereby a church was involved, like a doomsday cult. So many people were killed. So the government has put strict regulations around the forest. And also the president has initiated an inquiry, commission of inquiry. The report is out. So we expect radical changes into how religion will be practiced in the country. The state will be watching closely how religion will be practiced. so that they don't live and another Shakahola incident happens whereby a cult, a doomsday cult can do anything. It happened in the areas that we work, near the areas that we work, but it's not in the Kaya forest, but near the areas that we work. Also in this forest, where the Kaya elders practice the African traditional religion, ecotourism approach will be implemented or is to be implemented, because these areas that we are implementing the JISRA project, Joint Strategic Religious Action, with the Kaya elders and the government services around, actually it's a place, it's a tourist destination. It's a desired tourist destination where thousands of tourists go every year. White sandy beaches with a lot of sun, with good forests conserved. So one of the Kaya forests that we go, the Kaya Diani, is almost 200 meters from one of the big 5-star hotels. So ecotourism will be coming up in this forest very soon. This also, JISRA Kenya will be having a reflection meeting on 18th at that same spot. The whole team, around 10 partners, will be going to learn how we are doing the work with the Kaya elders in that forest. The ecotourism.
I'm gonna cut you off here because we need to move into the breakouts, but I know that you're going to be talking about the ecotourism approach and our plans in more detail in the breakout anyway. So this is not our last opportunity, but thank you very much for your contribution. And thank you for highlighting a lot of what we've seen again and again in FoRB and Peacebuilding. The need to bring people together to build that trust and relationship so that everybody's needs are met, and how a peace-building approach is really helpful in creating that space for everybody's freedom of religion or belief to be respected, and also underlining again the link between faith and climate, and how for African traditional religions and indigenous practices, not only, but very much something we see, that FoRB and climate justice are very deeply interlinked in these. And finally, also how state regulations, even as they seek to preserve people's lives, to preserve their rights, they can also in turn lead to FoRB violations. And so we need to work with religious actors and policymakers to ensure that there are win-win solutions for everybody. So let's see if there are any questions already in the Slido to be answered. So I see there is one already about how can religious leaders and communities be engaged in conflict prevention and peace building? Is there a universal mechanism that can be adapted to all countries? I don't know which of our speakers would like to take this one first. I can see Henning nodding, so maybe I'm going to open it up to you first. Let's make sure you're unmuted. Oh, Henning, sorry, you're not unmuted. There. Oh. Let's try again.
Yes, thank you so much. My answer is, as we start, it is not easy, we know, especially as we are working with the government, because of this many or complexity of the context in each of the different places. So the example, like in Indonesia, we have 34 provinces. So in the 34 provinces, we have different character of the religion. We have the different characters of the social. We have different character of the education, and also about the vulnerability community. So we can start with the easy something about the problem in the field. The example, if the problem in the West Kalimantan about the river, so we are talking about the river with them. So we start talking with them with the one of the community of faith. The example, we start with the Buddhist college, and after this, we invite others. So we start with one or two organizations based on the faith base, and we continue with the many religious, and after this, we bring it together to the government. So in our action is not all of about the discussion and talking, but we start with to see about the real problem in the location. So after we see the problem, we set about the alternative of solution. We discussing with this and we make it a tool. What is a tool's the problem? So maybe the tool is easy, like bicycling together and campaign together. The tool about it is maybe podcast. The tool and the location is maybe we discuss between multi-fit, or the tools may be discussing with the local government. So different places, but ensure that we can contribute with the alternative solution. It's okay, the small things, but ensure that is not only talking. So better action together, then we are talking more and many times.
Thank you so much, Henning. And I think you underline a lot of the key principles. Indeed, that there is no one-size-fits-all approach, but it's that dialogue, that relationship building, that coming with solutions really underlines religious engagement in peace building. I'm also going to use that opportunity to share in the chat Search's common ground approach to religious engagement, which, I mean, Henning could have written it herself. She's not from Search, but it's something that we know works because we learn from our partners on these kind of approaches. I am not seeing any hands from James or Ali. Oh, James, please, you'd like to add something. Let me make sure you can unmute.
Great, thank you. I thought I will just bring to everyone present consideration the changing demography of the places we live, and I make special mention of Southeast Asia. There's a lot of cross-border movement. There are also a lot of changes in the volume of people from other regions of the world occupying, living, studying, settling down in the different countries in the region. So I just wanted to kind of flag that, huge change in demography that is taking place in Southeast Asia. Secondly, I want to suggest to you from where we are sitting, the Asia Center, looking at it regionally and being the secretariat of the Southeast Asian FoRB network, what we see is there are additional actors in the FoRB space beyond religious leaders and the associated communities. There are parliamentarians who speak up on those issues. There are academics who speak up on those issues. There are rights-based CSOs that may not be faith-based that also speak up on those issues. There are also communities of sexual minorities who speak up on those issues. So I think the pool of concerned people and citizens of the world are all involved in the larger object of, conflict prevention, mitigation, and transformation. And they all contribute to the peace building process. So I just wanted to kind of flag that the variety of actors. And when we look at a particular country or a region, and again, speaking from Southeast Asia, it is not homogeneous. It doesn't only involve the citizens of that particular country. Actually, the people who occupy a particular country, let's say Thailand, where we are based, is so diverse, right? In Thailand, we have something like in excess of 45 million tourists per year in a country that is under 70 million. So that impact and the concerns around things that matter, right? Around conflict mitigation, prevention, and peace is huge. I'll pause here and pass the time back to you, Rachel.
Thank you so much, James. And I think you made some very excellent points around a couple of different elements, including, the regional dynamics and how Also, yeah, the impact of demographic change, whether that's people migrating from a country to a country or passing through as travelers and tourists, can really have an impact as well on freedom of religion or belief, but also on conflict dynamics and how those might manifest. And connected to that, I think also one thing that I hear a lot, and as somebody who sits between the FoRB space, which is often a rights-based space, but also the religious peacebuilding space, is that often religious peacebuilding is seen as very niche in the peacebuilding sector, and FoRB is seen as very niche in the rights-based space, even though there actually have, as James was saying, a huge amount of connections with a number of different issues, different actors, different priorities, and that we need to be able to be creative and build those coalitions to really maximize our impact. I am not seeing any other questions in the Slido or any in the chat, so I'm going to suggest that we move to, oh no, apologies. There is one more question that I'll flag to speakers. So when working with people from different religious communities, do you discuss beliefs, faith practices, and/or theology? And does that help or hurt relationships? I'll put it in the chat as well so everybody can see it. I don't know, James or Henning or Ali, if any of you would like to answer that one. James, I can see you're still unmuted, so maybe I'll pick on you first, if that's okay. Oh, you've just been muted again. It's bad timing. There you go.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much. Again, I'll just stick to the same vein earlier. Yes, when we have in the room, members of the different faith or communities, most of the discussion focuses on the commonality across different faith and practices and how that can help us bring together, whether it's beliefs, practices, or theology. Everyone's often looking for the underpinning commonality that can, help us, come together as a community. And it's always about, tolerance and faith, so that's very strong. But I think what I'm trying to suggest to all colleagues here, in our lived experience, there is a desire for others that are not from the religious community to also to engage. And when they engage, they have a different type of language, which is what we are kind of observing, which is a rights-based language, because the other communities, whatever the identities, whether they are politicians, sexual minorities, or academics, or others, they also live in the community where there are religious communities. So I think that's really uncharted territory, I think, because the language is a little bit different. So I think we need to kind of approach it gently, so that we can move forward together. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much, James. And I see Henning would like to add something as well. Let me get you unmuted.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone. For our side and our learning, we can start with the translated meaning from the example from the Al-Quran, from the Bible. So at the first, we need that each of the faith-based can understanding deeply and translate it easily for the public. So after this is how to communicate it with all of the ecosystem. So we didn't work with the only of the leader of faith, but the leader of faith is the core of the business model to translate it about the Al-Quran, Bible, and others to another ecosystem. Another ecosystem, the example is the student, lecture, a private sector, or others, and they can understand. And after this, we can collaborate together. So we cannot building the peace building is only with the religious sector, but we need more and more actors to involve with us to strengthening about the peace building and the really of the easily understanding of value of it and also action together in the community. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Henning. And I'm aware of the time, so I'm going to suggest we move into breakout rooms now. So we will open them. The breakouts will have the names of the speakers on them. So please join the breakouts according to which speaker you'd like to hear more from. I can see people are coming back from the breakouts. We'll give it a minute for everyone to be back in the plenary. Thank you very much, everyone, for your contributions. I hope it was an interesting discussion in all the breakouts. I know it was in our group. We'll give it another minute. I think people in Henning's breakout are lasting as long as they can until it closes automatically. All right, see a few more people joining. Coming back, wonderful. We've got 3-4 more people to come back in. There we go. All right. Great, thank you so much everyone for your contributions in the breakout. I'd like to apologize to those who were hoping to join our speaker Ali Aden's breakout. Unfortunately, I was told that our internet in our Mombasa office has suddenly just died. So he was cut out and hasn't been able to join on his phone. So very much sends his apologies. I will share in the chat as we wrap up a report that Search published earlier this year on the intersections between climate, FoRB, and conflict, which talks about the case study of the Kaya elders. So that if you wanted to learn a little bit more about that, you'll still be able to read about it. So I will put that in the chat, and please also don't hesitate to reach out to myself or colleagues if you have specific questions about that case study. But with the time that we have left and recognizing that we started a little bit late, so we've got a few extra minutes, I would like to just hand back to James and then to Henning for just closing remarks on their top messages, what they would like you to walk away from this session with. So James, if you would like to go first, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. Again, to repeat, I think the volume and demography and types of actors interested in peace building, peace mitigation, conflict prevention has enlarged. There's a range of conversation, and people are genuinely interested to keep the peace and contribute towards peace. That goes beyond the demography of a sitting country. It also includes all kinds of people coming and going. And increasingly, the type of groups of people who want to be involved are modestly interested in a rights-based approach. And this is what we have observed in the last few years in our role as a secretariat, and also it's kind of popping up briefly here and there in our evidence-based report, but also very shyly and cautiously because of all the associated risks approach in a more brazen rights-based approach. So that approach is being taken very slowly. There is also some small tension from the traditionalists who have always occupied the space, the faith-based group and their approach to peace. Sometimes they question the wisdom of a rights-based approach. So those are, some of the complexity and tensions we can see in the region in the last few years.
Great, thank you very much, James. And yeah, a lot of food for thought on how we can find new ways to work together without abandoning our values and our principles and the ways that we want to work to promote FoRB for everyone. And yeah, different approaches, rights-based, peace building, and how they can be complementary rather than necessarily adversarial. But that doesn't mean that we're going to see eye to eye on absolutely everything. And that's quite normal. Henning, please, over to you. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Okay, yes. Thank you. In our group, we talking about the future climate action and the religion. So that is a link between religion and the environment and promoting FoRB to become more effective in the climate issues.
Great. Thank you so much, Henning. Is there anything you want to add as key message for people to take away from this session today?
This the three message is number one is about the effective of the more effective in the climate action is about how to link it between a religion and also about the environment or climate action.
Great. Thank you very much for a very succinct to the point, clear message. Then nothing is left for me to do except to thank you all for participating today. I know that our speakers have shared resources in the chat. We really encourage you to take a look at them and to reach out if there are additional questions or things you want to learn more about different approaches from regional perspective, or rights-based or environmentally focused, and the different ways that we can bring in FoRB into our peace building work. Thank you so much, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your days. And thank you also to our speakers for their fantastic contributions.